We live.
Perfect.
Yeah. Rich, tell me when you got it. So thanks. I saw a couple people start coming on the first one. We're back. Love, Tech Nova. We're back. Glad to be back with you tonight. And you kind of heard the introductions with the first go round. If not, Taquana Taylor, CEO of Taylor Legacies. I'm gonna kick it right back off to Cameron because he was in his groove and we got kicked off. It's on you, Cam. On you.
Yeah, so as I was sharing, my name is Cameron Summers. I'm a husband of one. Got to say that in today's time. And me and my wife,
Yeah.
me and my wife got three beautiful children, and me and my wife, we have a few businesses. Our children have their own business, which is pretty amazing. And we've been in the financial services industry for collectively 12 years. And when we got together and started dating, we just simply were fortunate enough to learn the differences when it comes to the wealth gap, being in the Black community. And since we have the privilege and pleasure of being Black and beautiful, we just have a conviction that we owe it to Black and beautiful people to promote and give away the information necessary to bridge that wealth gap and just make sure we're doing our part, because we just believe that we're a part of something that's much bigger than the part we play. And so obviously we specialize with credit repair, business credit, as well as life and health insurance. And we're fortunate and pleased to be able to serve in the capacity we do.
Great, great, great. And just talking about that, and when we talking about, it was a clip that I'm gonna show in a second, and it was called the poverty trap. And I don't know if either one of you have seen it, but I want Rich to go and just introduce himself really, really fast before we go to that clip for our audience. Or take your time.
Okay. Yeah. I'm Rich Chickles. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or whatever. Fell into some of these little small traps, running with the wrong crowd and stuff like that. But I had an uncle, Willie, who told me, he would always say, "What are you gonna do in the next 5 years? What does your 5 year goal look like? What does your 5 year plan look like?" So I said, "Well, you know what? I don't like the direction that my peers were going in. So I enrolled in MATC, and I started in business there. And when I looked around, everybody that was getting a business degree, they were working other jobs like Home Depot and stuff like that. So I said, I'm not gonna use this money for that. Let me see if real estate works. So I took a couple real estate courses, and the teacher, the instructor, he broke things down really well, and he said, put your books up. Let's let ask me any question about real estate. And right then there, that turned on the light for me. And I was at MATC what in 2012, 2013. Um, Switched to real estate. Then 2014, I got my real estate license, and I started working at Caldwell Banker Home Sale Realty on 2200 North Mayfair Road. 2015, I graduated from MATC. Um, and then 2016, I was added to the real estate advisory committee. After that, things just took off as far as real estate go. Um, whether it's residential sales, whether it's trying to pull my people together and say, hey, try wholesaling to get more money in your pocket. I started a nonprofit, Rebuilding Homes. So we're trying to rebuild people from the inside out, their thought process, like how you can obtain some of these properties that you're looking at, and stop going with all those infomercials and get the real deal, the real nuggets that'll help you gain wealth in life. And I just started Hickles Housing Property Management. So real estate at MATC just took me all the way around, and I am glad to share any information that I have with you all. I have associate's degree in real estate. Like I said, I sit on the board. Um, I run my own brokerage and stuff like that. But any information pertaining to real estate, you can ask me, and I'll be more than happy to provide it to you.
Thank you. And when we come back after this, we're going to talk about redlining and things of that nature and stuff
Okay.
too, so that we can kind of dive a little deeper. And two, what do we talk about with real estate? And now, is that the thing that help you obtain wealth? And once before I said wealth can be different things for different people. A lot of people equate it to being having a lot of money or being rich, and some people that don't have the best health, that's wealth to them for them to be 100%. And so just that different perspective and how where you're going in life kind of gives you your definition of wealth. But I want to go to this one clip, and it's called The Poverty Trap. And then we'll come back and kick it back off with Cam.
Poverty trap represents the set of events likely to keep an individual in poverty unless an external force, like winning the lottery, intervenes. Why does this trap exist? Let's make it personal. Imagine you're a college student, which you probably are. You may be fortunate enough to own a desktop or laptop computer to help you complete your college assignments. Being able to complete your assignments allows you to complete the course. Completing all your courses allows you to graduate from college and then potentially get a well-paying job. This means that your current investments in things like education will have a positive effect on your future income. In fact, once you graduate, your future income might come close to the highest level it will reach in your life. This means that the money you make today will have an exponential increase on your ability to make money in the future. For each dollar you make, you are able to save and even invest that dollar for the future. In this case, you are investing that dollar in education. However, what would happen if your computer broke and you had to get it fixed? Even as a poor student, you would probably be able to find a way to pay to get your computer fixed. You might have to borrow money or sell something. Regardless, you have many more opportunities to handle financial woes than someone who lives in poverty in a less developed country. For people in extreme poverty, current investments in things like education will not have an immediate positive effect on future income.
So I'm hearing that you guys
As you can see
still
from the
see
new
me.
graph, money someone makes today doesn't help them make money in the future until they make a certain amount. But why is this different for someone living in poverty in a less developed country? Consider Grace, a poor farmer in Tanzania who raises chickens and sells them to other people in the village. Grace uses the money from selling chickens to pay school fees for her children and to buy food and clothes for them and her husband, who has been sick and unable to work. What little she has left over, she puts into feeding and caring for the chickens, buying medicine to keep them healthy, and maybe even buying baby chicks if she can afford to. In this state, Grace will be able to survive and perhaps even grow her business. She could eventually raise her family out of poverty. Unfortunately, however, things seldom remain stable. The chicken coop will need maintenance, or a child will become sick and need to go to the doctor. School fees will increase, or the cost of food will go up, or the house will need repairs. In most cases throughout the developing world, there is no health insurance, home insurance, or welfare programs to help Grace with these unexpected costs. In any of these situations, because Grace has very little money saved and few options for borrowing, she might have to sell all her chickens or take her children out of school to cover unexpected costs. This puts her back in a similar or worse situation than the one she was in before her financial woes began. This is the poverty trap. It means that if you are very poor, the money you make in the present or the education you receive in the present doesn't necessarily help you make more money in the future because you have no resources to fall back on in the case of a financial setback.
This time, I want you to try to move fast and slow. Follow along with me. We'll start jumping at normal speed like this.
So I was told that we can hear it, not see it, but hopefully that we heard it. We can still talk about it as well too. And so when I was just hearing about the poverty trap and how you grow up not having and how your outlook is, how it affects everything else that happens in your life. And so just thinking about Cam, when you were talking about credit rebuilding, restoration, getting your life right, and the couple of businesses that you and your wife have, and that your children have businesses, who grew up knowing like I can have a business. Talk a little bit about that, and let's just let us know how does that work. We have a guest.
Sure. So, the interesting thing is when you grow up, if you grow up impoverished as a child, you don't necessarily know that you're impoverished. You just know that, your norm is your norm, even though it's not normal, but you're probably in an environment and in a neighborhood where it is normal. And what's probably the most dangerous thing is not the poverty itself. It's the fact that we become products of our environments. And so when you grow up in an environment like that, you start to subconsciously inherit habits, attitudes, mindsets, behaviors, body language. And so poverty is a spirit before it's an actual physical thing, right? Like poverty takes place in the spiritual realm before it actually manifests in the physical realm. And unfortunately, when you adopt that mindset and that becomes your lifestyle and that becomes your norm, and it becomes so much easier to say things like it's rough out here and we all struggling, that's a spiritual thing. And then it manifests into your physical. And so for me growing up like that, I think I want to say, I'd say elementary. I'd say 4th and 5th grade is when I started to recognize that we were broke. I mean, you know, as a child, I didn't know what the heck the word poverty was. I just knew what I knew what the word broke was. And to be honest, we were broke, but then so were my peers who I didn't think were like, I thought my peers were having money because they had all the name brand shoes and clothes. And so I thought we were broke because my shoes was from Payless. But I didn't realize, you know, they probably just as broke as I am. I just don't have a clue. But nonetheless, I remember eventually becoming a teenager. And when I was a freshman in high school, I went to Milwaukee Lutheran. And when I started school, my mom, we had just came to Milwaukee from Cincinnati. And my mom had no clue because I never told her anything. But when I started at that school, I had one pair of pants to wear to school for the entire first semester. And she had no clue because I didn't want to tell her because I knew that how hard she was working to keep a roof over our head.
Yeah,
It was more than enough stress. I didn't want to add the extra stress of, hey, Ma, I don't have any more pair of pants. And so I wear one pair of pants every day. I just iron them and clean them every day. And it was at that moment when I developed a disgust for lack and a disgust for not having. And then I went to Milwaukee Lutheran. So I went to school with kids who had resources, such as Milwaukee Lutheran had driver's education as an actual course. Like you didn't have to go sign up and pay for it. It was an actual course. And so going to school with kids from different ethnicities, as well as kids who were Black, who had resources like a vehicle at 16, a driver license, parents who had businesses. So while they're in high school, if they pick up a summer job, it's because they want to, not because they need to, because their parents need them to get a job to help pay bills. And for me, getting a summer job was, this is the only way I'm going to get clothes and shoes and a cell phone.
Anything you wanted, plus he'll pay a bill.
Exactly. And so, you know, just keeping that with me helped me understand that, you know, where I am, I don't have to stay. I just don't have to. But I grew up with a mother who was on government assistance. And because I never seen her come off of it, I battled with, well, can you come from broke? Is that an actual possibility? And then when you don't know what you don't know, you start to develop these other mindsets, such as, man, are rich people born that way? Do you have to be in a certain club? I mean, do you have to sell your soul? Do you have to join the Illuminati? You know, all that crazy stuff. Just trying to figure that stuff out and not really understanding it. And, you know, that just developed a man who at one point realized, I don't know what I don't know, but I do know what I do know. And I do know I'm not at the time, I wasn't content when I graduated high school going to college and spending time and money trying to find who I was to come out with debt, probably still not knowing who I was. And so I made the distinct decision on a college recruiting trip. I'm not going to go to college because I don't really like school. And I like football, but once football season ends, I'm going to flunk my class because I don't like school. And then they might kick me out of here. And then I'm be mad that I came and now I owe this money back. Okay. So what I said was, I don't want to go to school, but I do want to have a business. I want a business because it seems to me those are the only people who get to create the resources that they want, is people who are in control of their own financial life. And then I just made the distinct decision I wanted a business, but it didn't start off with me starting my own business. I ended up working with my father, who ran a transitional living home. And it was a transitional living home. It was a nonprofit, actually. And he housed men and women with mental illnesses, men and women in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And working with him, I got to learn all the do's and don'ts of running a business. I got to see him actually reap the benefits of a business that did really well financially. And I also got to see him, actually go through the hardships of not having financial literacy while running a business. So like it's possible to have a business that makes a lot of money and be financially illiterate. Like that's a real thing in the Black community, to have a business that makes a lot of money and you still have no knowledge and literacy on how to use money. And that's who me and my father was. And after a few years, our business hit a rough patch like most businesses. And it was our financial illiteracy that caused us to go from a business that generated $75,000 a month to a business that the city shut down. And then we were stuck trying to figure out now what. And anytime you eat off of the entrepreneur spoon, it's very hard to go back and get a job. And so although our business was shut down, I was a few months away from my wedding day. Going to get a job was like Spanish because I hadn't did it in so long. So I didn't know what to do. And then my wife kind of just like, yo, like, you're really great with talking. You're really great with helping people. Like, our community need help when it comes to financial literacy. You should get your license to help me serve people when it comes to insurance, when it comes to credit and the things in that capacity. And that's when I found out helping your own people is a hard job, but it's necessary. It's necessary. And then obviously it only made sense to create, another business whenever we had a passion to do something else. And before you knew it, we created my kids a business when the pandemic hit because it was nothing to do. And I had credit and I said, well, what can I do? Because during this pandemic, I don't know what selling insurance is going to look like. I don't know who's going to sign up for credit repair. So I just used my credit, went to the bank, got some money, and bought a bunch of bounce houses and rental stuff and started a business for my kids. And to my surprise, during the pandemic, people were just renting bounce houses like crazy. And I said,
yeah, people still have
business.
And drop that information in the comments. I tagged you both too on my Sequana page just in case y'all wasn't able to share it, so y'all can. And when we talk about the definition of generational poverty, and it's defined as having been in poverty for at least 2 generations. It has its own culture, hidden rules, and belief systems. And most people think it's just strictly to one race of people. Absolutely, we know that's not true, but we definitely know race does play a part, especially when you're applying for credit, housing, loans, and things of that nature. And that you have a limited amount of resources. And so as we talk about that and think about that, and Rich, I know you deal in real estate, but obviously you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps too. So thinking about Cameron's situation, what is a person to do when they feel like, what, my mother did this, whether she was on government assistance, my father was locked up or not in our life, we had siblings. And that's true for most of us. When we work summer jobs, it wasn't because we can have the luxury of working it to save all that money. We was working it to literally live and get by. And so, a person coming from that, how do you look out and you say something can be different? I can achieve more than what I'm seeing around this block of this neighborhood.
Okay. Coming up, you're like, hey, I don't have the best of resources, but you can say, hey, I'm going to pull myself up out of here. I had a lot of friends say, man, I can't get a job. I got a felony. I can't get a job. So I'm like, well, listen, go get your license. Learn your trade. That's the first way to get yourself into business. So if it's carpentry, be a carpenter. There's so many houses in Milwaukee that you can go work in. That's one thing. Be an electrician. Or if you just like basically completely down and out, pick up a book. A library card is free. That's how I learned how to fix my credit. I watched the YouTube video. I didn't have any Wi-Fi. I had to use the Milwaukee public Wi-Fi or whatever. And I went to the library. I got a credit repair book. I looked at the letters in the back of them. I had to borrow a couple of dollars to do the certified letters, and I just challenged the debt collectors and stuff like that. But I did that from Milwaukee Public Library. everything else is comes from like your motivation. Like, hey, you got to get up here and do something. I was what I want to say about 14. I had to be like 4'8", 4'9", 4'11". I was short. I was a skinny kid, so I looked like a kid. So imagine me trying to work at McDonald's. They were like, "Boy, you can't even see over the cash register." I'm like, I tried to work at Wendy's. I worked at Professionally Speaking, doing telemarketing. None of this stuff was working until it was just like, you know what? Create a business. One of my first businesses was a business called Retail Ricks. I got a peddler's license, and I went and I took $40 and I went to 7 Mile Fair and I bought some socks, right? And when I came back, I sold them all for like $250. I couldn't believe what socks did. Socks, you know. So that also gave me a little bit of a little bit of confidence within myself, knowing I can go out there and sell something legal and make money off of that in order to pull myself up. The other thing is MATC. My God, people say, "Oh, I don't like MATC." That place turned me around completely. There's so many programs, so many people to talk to, so many people to latch on to that are going through your same situation. Everybody's there trying to get ahead, so that definitely works as far as emotionally. It pays to have somebody going through the same thing that you're going through with the same outcome, looking for the same outcome. So those are the ways to look to pull yourself up. And that's sort of what I did, because I was at MATC from 7 a.m. in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, and that's just because I didn't have a place to go, but that was my choice. How they said in the streets, they say, "Oh, you fell off." Well, I definitely did fall off. I definitely did fall off in order to learn something new. So to protect what I was trying to learn, I cut all ties with everybody I was doing something with. And hey, I couldn't afford a 35-cent soda, and I was at MATC like I'm gonna get it. And that effort showed up in my homework, in my conversations with my instructors. Today were like, well, you know what? Let me help pull you up a little bit. And that's the route that I took when it comes to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It was first forgetting what I know, learning something new. Because you change your mind, you change your life.
Absolutely. And just thinking about that and pulling yourself up from your bootstraps. And I know a lot of people will say, and you've heard it before if you're in certain rooms or certain environments, that some people just want to live that way. You know, that some people don't want better, they can't do better. But don't get me wrong, you take all of the stuff that's been thrown at us, especially people of color, and how we just make it. Like they said, we can take anything out of the cupboard and make a meal that's gonna feed 100 people. That's just who we are. And so that concept of us not wanting wealth or wanting to do better or wanting to be better, you know, no one wants to live where your bills is always more than you got coming in. No one wants to be in a place like as a mother, especially as a single mom and a mom of color, where your kids don't see the struggles. You know, like I tell mine, because I'm like, we're gonna be really transparent about these bills. Look at this. You know, and I even got my youngest daughter saying, well, when I move, I guess my baby just gonna have a whole empty house, a play yard, because furniture, you know, this is a lot. So as we move recently, just showing them the different things and how bills is and finances. And I know some people say, well, I don't want my kids to know about that. And that's true. Your parenting skills is your parenting skills. But I feel like I am equipping them to know, you know, this is how much something costs. This is on average what a person makes. This is what you have to spend, so that they don't get into the world and they're very surprised by saying, wow, I don't even know how you did it, but you did it. You know, because we make it look easy, because they don't see them times when you like, I don't know how we gonna make it, but something's gonna happen. And see, I don't want them to be telling their children that when they're older. I want to present a legacy now that they can make money, that they know about credit. It wasn't until maybe some years ago that I learned, like, you can start helping your kids establish credit at 13. And that don't mean messing their credit up, you know. And I'm gonna say I was lucky enough to save my mom and put any bills in my name. You know, like I might have helped some other people out, but that's a different topic and show. But the thing about it is now I'm teaching them how to build their credit. So at the age of 13, you can put them on a card, and it does not mean parents that you have to give the kids the card, but a card that you're gonna pay on consistently every month, and that helps to build their credit. So when they are 17 and 18, they have a credit history, because a lot of times if you don't have any credit, then your number is just as low as well too, rather than having bad credit. And showing them how to build credit, you know, what things can you buy. And if you have children that go to school, the first thing they do when they go to college is they send out all of these credit cards for student loans or student credit cards, and letting them understand it's not saying, hey, you can't have some of these things, but you know, you give a young 18, 19, 20-year-old, 21-year-old this credit card, $5,000, $10,000. You give some 40-year-olds that, you know, they go and buy some stuff. So it's just understanding. And I know my cousin fiance, me and him talk about financial wealth all the time. And I told him it is, don't get me wrong, race plays a part. But I was like, you know what I put in my mind as a goal set? Poor people buy now, rich people buy later. So even with businesses, you know, you get some money. Sometimes you do want to go out and buy something nice. You want to buy a house. You want to buy a car. And it's not saying you shouldn't have those things too, but you got to think about investing back. So if you have to wear those same shoes for 3 years because the money that you probably would buy from shoes, you're going to invest back in your business. That's a sacrifice, but you will see it in the long run. And so I think about that. Of course, I want a nice house and a nice car, but at what rate will I get it? So the first $10,000 to $20,000 I can get, or $50,000 I can make, do I go splurge and buy something nice because we come from a background where we don't have it? Or do I sacrifice a little bit and say, hey, I'm going to wait and invest this part back into my business or back into my kids' life so that they can have something? And sometimes that's hard because we don't have $20,000 sitting. Hey, I don't know. A lot of people that may say they have $5,000 or $2,000 sitting around because every dollar or dime you get goes to bills. And so how do you save when you are living paycheck to paycheck? And if any one of y'all have, you know, some great tips and knowledge for anybody listening and myself as well, how does a person save when they're living paycheck to paycheck? What do you put up if you have nothing to put up? Or how do you make residential income for that?
That's a great question, Saquana. So for me, just with what me and my wife have done, and believe it or not, although I literally help people with credit, here's what people have to understand. Everything is spiritual first, then it's physical, okay? I can't express that enough. And what that means is this. Your mindset, your body language, your habits, the words you speak, the emotions that you meditate on, those things are normally learned behaviors. It happens within and then it comes without. So even though I help people with credit, I had really bad habits that some of them I still fight. So literally, although I know what it takes to fix credit, my wife is way more responsible financially than I am. Like literally, I've told my wife, like, listen, I don't need no cash today, and I don't need no cards today. I got my license. I'm good. She'll say, listen, you better go out there with a car. Say, listen, sweetheart, I got everything I need. I don't want it because I know me. So what I've learned is, one, you got to renew your mind daily. And the importance of renewing your mind daily is this. There's an old cliche saying, I don't see Saquana, but I see that we're still live. So I'm just going to assume that she'll be back in. The old cliche is you are what you eat. Okay. Well, that's true physically as well as spiritually. You know, that means you eat with what you watch, you eat with what you listen to, you eat with what you put in your mouth, and obviously what comes out of your mouth, you regurgitate it, right? So the information that you're consuming, it is a huge influence. If the songs you're listening to, the artists who wrote those songs, if they're people who are not financially responsible and they just waste money, you are going to manifest the energy of one who wastes money, even though you ain't got no money to waste, right? It's the law of association. And so what I've benefited from is associating myself with individuals who either have more money and resources than me, or individuals who are goal-oriented and driven to accomplish their goals, so they exercise more self-discipline and self-control than the average individual. And so if you surround yourself with enough people who think that way, you're going to find yourself becoming a little bit more responsible and exercising a little bit more self-discipline and self-control with your money. So if all you got left over after you pay your bills is $100 until another 2 weeks, who you hanging around, what you consuming with your time, your eyes and your ears is going to influence if you even care about saving that 100, trying to invest and flip that 100, or just wasting that 100, right? And credit is a powerful tool, right? Credit does have a power that even if you don't have money, you can find yourself having access to resources. But Rich will be able to elaborate on this more than me because I'm not a realtor, right? Even though credit is powerful and it can get you the bag, please understand this. Credit is just one step. Having excellent credit and absolutely no money at all for the wrong person is very dangerous, and it's almost meaningless because everybody wants to get into real estate. Everybody wants to buy a house. Everybody wants to walk into the bank with a 720 and buy a house. But understand, if you walk into the bank with a 720 credit score and no job, no lick of income, the bank is going to smile at you and shake your hand and probably give you Rich's number. Because credit without some money, if you don't have the smarts, if you don't know the right people, it's almost meaningless, right? So essentially, it's no magic pill. It's really a matter of renewing your mind daily. Don't conform to the contents of this world. Don't conform to the contents of your zip code. If you live in a zip code where people take the little they got and go to the gas station and trick it off, do the opposite of what they're doing. Get outside your zip code. Enroll in MATC and go there from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Go to the library and spend the whole day there using a Wi-Fi. Consume some information that's going to challenge your spirit and your mindset, and you're going to find yourself influenced and motivated and empowered to just think differently and do different things. So when Rich says change your mind, if you change your mind, you can change your life. Literally, that's a spiritual thing before it's a physical thing, because what you consume is going to impress upon you the thoughts you think. Your thoughts are going to impress emotions. Your emotions are going to impress behaviors, right? So someone who knows how to save or invest money versus someone who just tricks it off, the difference is, what are they consuming? What information are they consuming? What kind of people are they hanging around? What kind of music are they listening to? What are they watching on television? What kind of conversations are they participating in? When you go to the barbershop, you don't have to participate in the conversation if it ain't adding value. Because some conversation will make you broke. You'll show up with $100 and leave with $0 because the conversation lacked that much authenticity and it lacked that much value.
Conversation to make you broke. I was just like, how many times you in life like, you know what? I don't even know if that was worth my time. You know what I'm saying? That was deep. I just want to read a couple comments, and then I just want to play this other clip about Redline, and hopefully it don't make us go off. And I won't say people names, not because they didn't tell me not to. I just like to respect people. But somebody was like, they need help with the discipline of it. And that's true. Sometimes you know what to do, but you still do different, you know. And even as for me, like rebuilding, I know the insides and outs of like saving. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you can't save because you don't have what you don't have. But even like what you do with credit and the 30% utilization and what cars you have, or, you know, sometimes you do go out and buy stuff knowing, and I'm not saying taking your bill money, knowing that can be money that you're saving. But in life, you do want to say, so I'm working for nothing. Like I do want to have or enjoy life. And I want to say fun, but that fun is determined by different things. So I don't mean just going out blowing your money, but some people like to do different things. But I understand when you're saying discipline. Also, someone said learning how to live. I love it. And they were saying, yep, I need help with discipline. The bravest thing you can do is knowing what you can and can't do. And that's true. As well as, you know, knowing what's coming in and what's going out. So in the process of getting a house, it's little stuff that we never think about. Like you win this and it's $20 a month, or you pay for this, it's $30 a month, this is $15 a month. And that's not necessarily saying you don't necessarily need it, you want it, but all of that adds up. And so how many things that you just pay out without utilizing it, that's $20, $30 or $12 here. And I had to look at stuff that I'm a part of. And I love helping, I love doing a lot of stuff. And I was just looking at a couple of things and I was like, I haven't even used this, but I've been paying for a whole year to have it, and it's like, so what did it benefit me to have it? And not to say like, oh, you would have saved this much money, but you take 20 times 12, that's $240 all day long. You think about how could you invest that in something that's going to help you or have money for you, or just something that you can save. And a lot of times we don't think about it like that. Like, what are we doing necessarily with the money that we have? So when you say, I really don't have anything to save, do you need Starbucks every day? And some people may say, if you want me to be a great person, I do. I don't drink coffee. Some person might say, do you need to go out to eat once a week? And they may say, I need something that I do for me. So giving different people look at different things in different ways, I think learning how do we break those generational curses. And in a way, I don't necessarily want to always say it's a generational curse, maybe our way of thinking. Because like I said, if we go back to like the 60s and 50s, people of color owned a lot of things. It's just saying it's not owning now. So like I talked about before, like when I go to different cities, we always patronize places of color, whether it's restaurants, whether it's stores, just whatever, just to make sure we're spending that money within the community. But as I said before, when you come to Milwaukee, there's a lot of great people doing a lot of great things, but we don't have what I consider a Black-owned community. Don't get me wrong for people jump on here. People own restaurants, bars, houses, but I don't know anybody that own more than 2 houses on one block. I can't say 15th to North to 50th to North is primarily owned by people of color. That's what we don't have. And I think about it, how do we get to that point? And before I hear side holes or this, we can do it. It's so many great people in this city doing so many things. Why can't we take a pot of our finances, resources, and our knowledge and get together and say, this is the majority owned part? And not even that, we patronize the business or the services they're doing. And that's not to say, oh, you should go to a Black restaurant because they're Black if you didn't like their service. That's saying if we need to enhance or improve on something, whether it's Black, Hmong, Hispanic, whatever, then we give them some type of resource to do it. And it don't necessarily mean money. I may be the greatest cook, but if I don't know how to keep my finances and books together, my restaurant won't last. So if I know Cameron is good with numbers, but I'm good at cooking, why can't we barter some services or meet and see how we can work something out so that we both can be successful? And I still believe it can happen here in our city. I don't have to move away to notice that it can be something great. And for those that do, more power to you. But I look at our city and say, this is a city of wealth. When people say what money you can make in Milwaukee, obviously a lot, because I see all type of other people in businesses. I ain't seen one business that's not of color. I just want to be honest, that's out of business during this COVID or pandemic. You get what I'm saying? But then I think about those businesses of color, they are really struggling and having challenges. Somewhere there was either a misconception, miscommunication, missing funding, something. So how do we make sure even during a pandemic that we still strive and be alive? So after the pandemic, we're even stronger. And so it was a young, and I want to say he was Asian or Hmong. I hate to mix it up, people, ethnicity. So if I mess it up, I'm gonna blame it on the head and not the heart. And I just want you guys to listen to what he talked about. Let me see the realities. Yeah.
Before Mr. Rich go, I just want to say that it is very imperative that we learn our history.
Yep.
Because if you don't know what you come from, you don't know where you're going. And I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that, because you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you started. Because chances are you haven't even started yet. And so if you look at the history of being a Black person, even before slavery, right? If the motherland was Africa, we were not struggling and poor in Africa when we were stripped, right? When we were taken against our will. But when we were taken against our will and forced to be slaves for a couple hundred years, what a lot of people don't know, what a lot of Black people don't know is this. Once we became free on paper, there was a bank that was started for Black people called Freedmen's Bank. And this was the only bank that Black people were given to save their monies. And because Black people had been slaves for hundreds of years, they were involuntarily disciplined. So when they were given the free will to work and earn wages, they had a ridiculous amount of discipline and self-control. They worked and put majority of their money in the bank. And after a few short years, Black people everywhere raised millions and millions and millions of dollars in this bank. It's unfortunate that the people who were governing this bank weren't Black. And so the laws weren't put in place to protect Black people's money. And so I love to share that with people because I like Black people to understand, don't believe because you're Black, you come from poor. You don't come from poor because you're Black. It just so happened that poverty does exist in a lot of our roots, but that don't mean you came from poverty, right? The next step is vulnerability. And vulnerability is just a matter of being able to take your pride and put it to the side and being willing to admit, I do make $9 an hour. After all my bills are paid, I do only have $65 left over. And because of my habits, I really only end up with $5 left. And so every week I am calling my mom or somebody else and asking to borrow money. And that is my cycle. And you just have to be vulnerable because unfortunately, because of pride as Black people, we're so big on impressing each other that we're unwilling to be honest about how little we have. And we rather you think we got more than what we have because of our shoes or maybe our clothes. And then the next step is just accountability. Just surrounding yourself with people who you were vulnerable with, and then you ask them, could you hold me accountable to this so I can accomplish my goals, and vice versa. We're going to hold each other accountable because we're looking for something bigger than where we are. And accountability is necessary. So those few people that commented and said, I need discipline, that's accountability. All we have to do as Black and brown people is either find some kind of association to join. And that's not saying go find a club and pay $20 a month. That's saying find you a network of people who are like-minded.
Absolutely.
Y'all come together and y'all do something that y'all aren't used to doing. Like maybe Zoom once a week and maybe find somebody like Rich or myself to jump on your Zoom and just pour some information into you every week. And every week y'all are filled with fire and passion. And 6 months later, y'all filled with fire and passion, but more information. And y'all have probably did a lot more in 6 months than y'all ever did in your life. And now y'all actually got something you can feel and touch and turn into an asset or a goal that you desire to achieve. And I believe it's really that simple for us. It really is. But I heard a man say, success is easy to do. It's also easy not to do. It's easy to wake up today and say, I don't feel like reading a book.
Exactly. Man, I got so many different stories, and I'm talking about experiences where you come from, like nobody lives paycheck to paycheck like a realtor just getting started. So if you don't sell something, you're not eating, right?
Right.
Man, I had a whole bunch of stuff thrown at me when I first got started. Well, let's just say I had $65 left from that paycheck, right? But what I did was I wrote on a piece of paper what I wanted. I was precise about what I wanted, right? So going through MATC, I didn't have that house. I got into real estate to learn how to sell houses and learn how people purchase houses, because I didn't have a daddy that told me buy this house, buy that house, or a mama that was like, go get this loan, go get that loan. So that's how I learned how to buy and sell real estate, by actually selling real estate to my clients or whatever. And then my babies were delivered to me. I got 4 kids, but I got 2 boys that are glued to my hip. They Irish twins, right? They glued to my hip. So we didn't have that roof, but I was still grinding, getting those checks. I get 1,000 here, 3,000 there, 4,000 there, and because I knew to be around like-minded people, there was some people that helped me. I sold them City of Milwaukee tax foreclosures, and I believe I sold a good 12 or 15 of them before they turned around and said, well, hey, we got to help you get one. So I said, okay. Now I had the option, mind you, I got 2 babies with me. I got the option of renting this property for $675 a month. I got a car note, I got insurance. I know I had to pay We Energy, I got to furnish the house. And I'm like, you know what? If I don't close next month, I might be getting an eviction notice, you know. So I took a huge gamble, y'all. I took a huge gamble. I found me a city tax foreclosure. I ended up a couple of dollars with my friends. I told them, hey, over this amount of time, I can pay you this back. Can you help me with supplies here? And they all put together, and I closed on my first property. Man, it took so long to get it together, but I made it to where we had a place to stay, and that also played a big part in living paycheck to paycheck because when it first comes, you don't have a mortgage due, you don't have rent due, and no, that's a great pressure right there. You're like, okay, I can do We Energy, or I can do that water bill every 3 months, or I can do I can afford this insurance, I can afford these taxes. But waking up every day, you got 2 babies, no child care, you like, is this house gonna sell? Is this deal gonna close? Knowing that you will have a mortgage or rent to do, I mean, man, hey, a bald head man to be like, oh my God, completely bald, you know, worrying about that little stress or whatever. But that was one gamble that I took, and that was me living from paycheck to paycheck. I write stuff down and say, hey, I'm gonna get this. I got vision boards. I fold stuff up in my wallet and forget about how I'm going to get it. I just know that it is that I want. You know, I know I'm gonna get there. You do right by people, people will do right by you. This Milwaukee thing, see, I talk to a lot of people. You wouldn't know these people even got money because Milwaukee, we don't talk big ticket items with each other. um, when I started talking to investors and telling people, hey, you can buy this city of Milwaukee tax foreclosure, you can buy 2 of them on the same street for XYZ amount of dollars, do this to them, speak to your inspectors and stuff like that, build up a report, get your name good with the city, watch how your money flows. A year or 2 from now, those investors are cashing in right now, either of renting or flipping properties. So again, living paycheck to paycheck. If you say if you got $100 left and you like, you know what I got to work with. If you think of it like that, like what do I have to work with? Boom, I
Right.
got this 100 and I'm going forward with this, or this is my last 100. I want to hold on to it. What I'm gonna do?
Right. It's gonna have
Yeah,
to make it do what it do.
it's gonna be all bad.
Right.
I say
Share. Right.
eat a peanut butter jelly sandwich, put one in your pocket, and go on out there. And I swear, act like you don't have anything going on negative in your life, and just put your best foot forward. You never know who you're gonna meet. I met all type of people, all type of
And
people.
what's gonna happen?
Right.
Yeah. Let's
I
share this
brought
clip.
I, I broke this generational curse like that.
It's called poverty. A word that some of us may never understand because we're blinded by the luxuries given to us at the tip of our hands. It happens to the minority, the ones with no authority, a silent prison with no walls. They feel like they're in captivity to this word called poverty. But really, we're the minority, the minor population. The people in Africa, Asia, and South America, the majority, but their daily duty is help out in the community. To walk in the desert for 4 hours to give a sip of water to their brothers and sisters. And that's the reality. While up here, we throw buckets of cold water in our heads to fund activity. Talk about sustainability. Not sure you wear that says Nike. Was once made by a 5-year-old kid in Bangladesh with no family. That bottle of water doesn't mean a lot to me. To a kid in Cambodia, that bottle of water could save his life. And that one game we call Call of Duty
It's the harsh reality of the kids in Afghanistan who learn how to kill a man before they become a man. And that's the reality of this word called poverty. And why is it that North America, the minor population, makes 30 times more than the majority? To me, that's insanity. And we should be sharing evenly to the people in poverty. Am I not the only one who feels guilty? I'm sorry. I'm sorry to that 15-year-old boy who was born on the same day as me and who's held in captivity to this word called poverty.
All right. Y'all can hear at that time, right? No. Let's see what's up with that.
So many times we see someone in need. Most walk by while they plead for the help that will not come, plead for love because they have none. So many people just don't take the time to support their fellow man. Like it's too much to be kind, too much to give a helping hand to someone who needs it. Please take a stand. Stand up for the ones who cannot speak for themselves. They need your help, you may be the one. Sometimes helping can even be fun. You know the kid you saw this morning walking down the street? He looks like an average American teen. He goes home after school but has nothing to eat. He gets beat by his parents and then says, "They're not that mean." The girl in school that has always sat next to you, she always hangs out with older men. She doesn't have parents to go home to. Her parents were in a car crash and died when she was 10.
Okay. It went over to the next video, y'all, and it just played for a little bit. But it was supposed to go over to redlining, but I'm gonna let Rich just talk about that. But the first video, definitely the Asian American young boy, you know, just him going deep, talking about how we look at things so differently and how we don't even understand, because in America, you ask us for $5 to do any job, we are highly offended, but that they have young people over there in Bangladesh, in Bangkok, that work for $5 a day, making these $100 Nikes that we like to wear. And then that's when we talk about the poverty matters. I remember going to Bangkok and they took us where the people live, like the people that serve us. So, you know, you go eat at these nice restaurants and you go to these stores or you go on the street vendors, you know, and you buy stuff, but I always like to go see where people live, even when like we went to Puerto Rico and other places that I went to. And so in Bangkok, the people that are serving you, those street vendors, those people that's keeping your hotel okay, those people working in the restaurants, they live literally in water. Like the houses are on water, but you see the water coming up through the floor. And I was thinking to myself, and I was asking our tour person, like, are these houses abandoned? And they go, no. This is where the help stays, you know, and so I think about it even over here. That's why I said wealth and poverty means something different to so many people, because me being over there and knowing like for $7, you know, how much food I can get and how much stuff I can buy for $50. And that's being over here and feeling like we're in poverty, not even understanding that some people have it worse than us. And that's not to negate or say anybody should live in any form of poverty, but that we have to think about sometimes maybe it is more of a mindset. when we think about the poverty mindset, the wealth, and breaking generational curses, and how we can be thankful for what we have now and expand on that. But I also believe in giving back. So there's no way I should be blessed with riches or wealth of any kind, and I don't give back to which the community that I came from. And so I just think and talk about that. But then I know I went kind of deep. But Rich, I want you to talk about the redlining for houses and how the video was supposed to show there was a black young man and a white young man who lived 3 blocks from each other, and how the African American little boy, the black boy, the school that he went to, the books was disproportionate. They didn't have all of the resources that the white little kid had, and how the white boy, his family was able to buy houses and get credit from their credit application, whereas as the black boy, his father worked 2 jobs, but he put black and he didn't have the financial gains to back any loan. He wasn't able to obtain a house loan at a good rate, and how the rate was so much, and how people had to live in differences. When we think about how the bridges was made on 6th Street, that was to keep people on the south side and people on the north side. And how does that affect redlining in our economical community that we live in?
Okay. First we have one demographic doesn't want to live by another demographic or whatever. Then you have all these little systems put into place as far as financing and stuff goes like that. Redlining is saying, hey, you want to purchase in this neighborhood. Your family has probably built up enough money to purchase in this neighborhood, but we don't want you in this neighborhood. So we might not give you a loan for this, might tell all our neighbors, hey, don't sell to them, stuff like that. And that'll ultimately keep you in a certain section of the city. Also, taxes play a big role in redlining as well. If you go, let's say, let's just use North Avenue. If you take North Avenue, you heading towards Mayfair Road. You're on the border of Milwaukee and Tulsa, where you have 2 identical houses. One is on 61st and North. The other one is like 2 blocks away. One's taxes are $1,800. The other taxes are $5,000. So that's like another form of redlining as well. Although you can afford the house, can you afford to keep the house? Because can you afford an additional $500 or $600 per month just for taxes alone? And it's like, okay, if you can afford this property, what kind of jobs do you have? I'm qualified just like you qualify. Why are you getting paid more? So if I can't afford more, and I can't afford this space, how can I get over here? Y'all bashing us on the loans. Y'all definitely bashing us on the imaginary credit game, because who made that up? But that really plays a real role in if we're getting approved or not. When I was in Tom Mortell's class at MATC, he brought out some old documents, and they had a property on 7th and Meineke. It was over 100 years old, where it said, don't sell to Negroes. And that caught everybody's attention. Like, wow. It just had it plain as day, blatant, just right there. Do not sell to Negroes. And all that had to change, and the Fair Housing Act and all that good stuff had to come about. But a lot of that redlining, it's plain up front. You won't see it until you start reaching for higher ground.
Yeah, want a good rate. And we can just finish the conversation and Cam jump in too. It's a quote that I got up now, and it say, it's up to us to break generational curses. When they say it runs in the family, you tell them this is where it runs out. And so we have to break that chain and that cycle regardless if you're on government assistance, you know, regardless if you have a job that pays $9 an hour, that does not mean that we don't break the system of us having to stay in certain houses, us having a higher percentage rate when we go for cars and credits, us wanting to live in different places of the city. And you think like now we're in 2021, y'all. I was gonna say 2021, and you still think within the city of Milwaukee and some of the sub places here that if you wanted to go rent a house or buy a house, depending on how you look, like, not, don't get me wrong, you can say, oh, I got excellent credit, but that you still can be discriminated against. And people will say that don't happen in today's society. It absolutely do, because I think about even some of the houses that people are renting, the amount of money that they pay for those houses in the way that they look are ridiculous. But because maybe they don't have good credit, or maybe they've had an eviction, you know, or it could be the color of their screen, they're paying $1,200 for a house that they should be paying $700-800 in rent for. And a lot of people say, well, you can buy a house if you're going to pay that much in rent, not understanding that you just can't come up and just buy a house. You know, there are certain things that you need to have in place to be able to even qualify for it. And that sometimes it seems like it's different. So, Rich, have you seen, and Cam, if you know too, have you seen any discrepancies within somebody buying a house, not even necessarily with down payment, but I even know there's a difference with FHA
Oh
versus
yeah.
conventional.
Oh yeah. I've seen it on. I had so many clients. I had one African American daycare, a minority owned daycare, and they were trying to purchase a property that's more or less like historic. It's like a big pillar to Milwaukee, and they had almost if not more, $1 million line of credit. Right? They could purchase a property, take that down, build up their whole compound, whatever they want to do. So we had a buyer. I mean, we had a seller, and the people were, my clients were purchasing the property as is. Now this was a major purchase, like a $500,000 purchase, and the seller said because he had to miss a day of he had to reschedule his flight to make his vacation. The man asked for an additional 10,000 or 15,000 or something. No, I want to say it's 10. It was either 10 or 8. But he asked for an additional 8,000 in the end.
10,000 American dollars?
Huh?
10,000 American dollars?
10,000 American dollars, yes.
Oh,
He asked for an additional $10,000, right? And my client said, you know what? I'm buying the property as is. I'm giving you exactly what you want. I know that I got to put an additional $60,000 into this property. And the guy turned around and said, well, if I can't get this extra 10 or 8 grand or whatever it was, then I'll just kill the deal. And he let 400,000, he let 8,000 stop him from making 400,000 to 500,000. And I say this to say, this couple over here, they scaled their business up. They crossed all their T's, dotted their I's. They had everything together. There was not one reason other than the fact of who they were or what they appeared to look like that stopped that man from selling that building to them. Anybody else, I promise you that man would have sold that building to them. But we grow. We do everything that we can do. We pull ourselves together so we can grow. And then just because of how you look, like my name is Richard Hickles. A lot of people who don't look like us, they think that I look like them on paper until they see me and say,
Rich Nichols.
Where you get this name from? You know, this ain't a Jones. This is not a Brown, you know? So sometimes I get in the dough and then it's like, hey, if I don't have my look together, everything, it's just like, they were just going to kick me out the door if I didn't come with it. But all this little stuff, is there to hamper us. But I just want to say one more thing before I give you back the floor. When it comes to generational curse breaking, I was fortunate enough to do that with my daughter. When I got into real estate, and I got my other kids, and they were just I realized that they were all looking at me. So I had to give them something to watch, something to emulate, right? So I learned how to do real estate. I learned how to wholesale real estate. I did it so well to the universe just brought it together. Like, boy, you grinding, you got these checks. Here's this property that you were looking for, and bought my daughter a property. As soon as she turned 18, she didn't understand what was going on, but I was like, well, here's a property. If you want to go off to college, go off to college. We're gonna rent this thing out. You'll have some money while you in college, you know. Or if you want to sell it when you come home, sell it. That's your start in life. Now you have some income, or now you have a substantial amount of money that you don't have to go doing what your friends do to get money, or looking over your shoulder, or trying to work at Checkers and McDonald's at the same time. And then with that, she bumped her head a little bit, but then at, I want to say 20, she purchased her own property through the same way that I showed her. So we broke that generational curse. And I try to tell my other sons who are coming up, they're 13, 8, and 7. Hopefully, God willing, if I'm in a position to purchase them property when they're 18, I'm gonna do it. All my children. 18 years old, here go your property, here go your start.
Right, and that's part of, I think, changing that cycle to say, hey, now that I know better, I'm establishing better onto our children. And so just in wrapping it up too, Cam, like when we talk about credit, I'm gonna be honest, I tell some people maybe put other, because we all mix with everything to make sure and get your credit right. But how does a person even kick off to establish credit? And this can be for both of you all. And then also make sure that you put a way that a person can contact you in the comments if they need your assistance or expertise, because I know this is something that you both do for business.
So again, just to reiterate from earlier, me and my father, we were in business together. We were running a transitional living home. It was nonprofit. Our residents paid maybe $500 to $600 a month to stay there. We fed them, we cleaned. We had about 60 plus residents. So, I mean, we were easily at some of our best months making $60,000 to $75,000 a month after month. And like anything, right? The Bible promises hardship. There's always a drought coming, just like there's always a harvest coming in. And the best farmers know how to prepare for both. Only ignorant farmers expect a harvest, and they just expect that God will protect them from a famine ever hitting the land. And that's just not the case. And so for us, we were those ignorant farmers. We just expected that we'll always be in harvest season. We never thought a drought would come. And so a drought came and business shut down like that. And because we were financially illiterate, we didn't do the best at saving and investing money. So when the business stopped, we couldn't hold ourselves for a good year, because we were just spending money like it's gonna come tomorrow. And that's when I learned. I said, got to figure out what the heck was I missing, that when we got in financial trouble, we didn't have something to lean on. And essentially, some people use credit for leverage. And credit is used at its best when you leverage it. And then others use credit as backup. Some people don't want to touch their credit unless they absolutely have to. We had none, so we couldn't do either, right? And it was when that happened, I realized I got to figure something out. And my wife at the time, when we were dating, she had a relationship with Coach Darvin Moore, who was still our mentor and coach to this day. And I met him. He actually helped my wife land her first real estate property.
He the truth.
Right. He helped my wife land her first real estate property. And he used to always say, Ola, when you get a guy, you better bring him to me so I can meet him and make sure he's the real deal. We met, told him everything we were doing. He's like, Cam, I'd love to meet with you and your dad. I could really help y'all. My dad wasn't interested at that time. He's an old school guy. Some old school guys think cash is king. And right. I tell people, if cash is king, better believe credit is queen. And at the end of the day, queen says what goes.
Right.
And that's when I realized, all right, I need to figure out what to do now so that never happens again. And that's when our journey started. with credit. And the crazy thing is, today, if you go on social media, everybody named mama fixed credit. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm going to tell you why that's a good thing. Because we need, everywhere we look, we need to see how easy and simple it is to get good credit. Because then what happened to our subconscious mind is we'll start to believe it's easy. Because some people have never had good credit. So they believe it's not possible for them. They think that there's something out there in the air stopping them from being able to ever experience good credit. And that's just not the case. So I love the fact that there's so many people who help with credit. But credit is essentially three things. It's really three things, okay? It doesn't matter if you fix your own credit or if you pay somebody to fix your credit. Credit is A, understanding that you have a credit report. It's your report card. When you go to school, the report card is the only thing we have to go off of that you actually excelled in the classroom. Or your report card is going to let us know that you didn't do well in classroom, okay? That's what your credit report is. Your credit report is going to let a lender, a bank, a potential significant other who wants to see cap you and check your credit, right? It's going to let them know, does this person excel financially, or does this person made a lot of bad decisions, and those decisions from the past is still have them in quicksand today, okay? That's one, the credit report, right? That's why disputing your credit is so popular, okay? Because the idea is, doesn't matter what's in your credit report, the fact that there's a law called the Fair Credit Reporting Act that supports us disputing our credit to get negative items removed, even though they belong to you, that is your power, okay? So a lot of us have been telling lies when we say knowledge is power. That is false. Only applied knowledge is power. If you don't apply the knowledge, it's no power at all, okay? It's no power at all. So understanding that you can remove negative items from your credit report, that's one thing. The second thing is your credit score. Just because you remove all the negative information from your credit report doesn't mean that you're going to soar to the 700 club. Because what determines your credit score is you, okay? And what that means is your credit score, your number, is a reflection of how well you pay bills on time, how much debt you use at any given time. Just because you have access to all of it don't mean you have to use all of it.
Please don't use all of it.
That means you have $1,000 credit card, and instead of using $100 at a time, you normally use $990 at a time. Okay, that's looked at as irresponsible because lenders understand that
300 mark.
Yep, lenders understand that if life hits you, your credit limit being at $990, there's a great chance you won't be able to pay them back next month. Okay, so your credit score, again, payment history, debt to income ratio, length of history. How long have you had this account? Because if you've had this account for 2 years or longer, that shows us more than enough time to believe that you know how to pay us back if we decide to borrow you money. Okay.
The length of time.
How diverse is your portfolio? What that means is We Energies the only thing in your name, and they don't even report no more.
They don't. Energies don't report no more, people. So y'all should know that.
Or do you have We Energies in your name, a car note in your name, a couple credit cards in your name, healthy student loans, right? Everybody want to remove their student loans. Let me tell you something about student loans. Student loans ain't always bad. As long as they pay it on time, it's actually good on your credit report, right? So that's the fourth thing that controls your credit score is diversity. How many things do you have in your name? And the fifth thing is inquiries, right? In Mr. Rich's world, if you got too many inquiries, I don't care how much credit and how much money you got, them lenders gonna look at you with their eyebrow raised because they're gonna say, man, you look a little thirsty. Why you apply with money for 20 different places this past year? You know, we're feeling a little skeptical, not to mention that can bring your score down, right? So you got your credit report, you got the credit score, right? Here's the third most important thing. Mindset. You can clean your credit report in 3 to 12 months, add some things to your name, get a 750 credit score in 3 to 12 months, but your mindset going to determine if you leverage the credit and turn it into assets, or if you use the credit to find yourself broke again with bad credit in a few months. Because your outer world is a mirror of your inner world. And if you're not consuming information, on how the rich keep getting richer, you'll get good credit, And by next year, you'll call me again, asking me to fix your credit again, because you never really understood how credit works. You just wanted to get a nice car, and now you got it.
Right,
And
driving around in it.
And that's how credit works. It's three things. It's not one, it's three, right? So the bad thing about social media is sometimes we paint the picture that credit is so easy that you think you get to call me today, I dispute your credit, and you think in 2 months from today you should have excellent credit. And that's not fair, because if you have bad credit for 15 years, if it take me 1 year to help you get excellent credit, that's still a miracle. And it's not fair for you to think you get to go 15 years with bad credit and then in 15 minutes get good credit. That's not fair. And that's called hitting the lottery. Those people go broke faster than anybody else.
That was a lot, and it was some really good information. So if you couldn't take it in, you need to get in touch with him. Make sure he did shout out Darvin. Me and Darvin talked about him coming on the show too. I call him one of the gurus too. I love him. Team Credit, the blueprint, since we just giving out, it's you can go on there. You don't have to pay any money to join. They give excellent tips on different things, the credit, loans, stuff like that. You still need to find those people that expertise. Like, you still need a Rich. Don't get it wrong, but they got people in there that help you, lead you to people and the questions that you should ask so that you're going in the right way. And they share a lot of information in that group. You don't have to even say a word if you don't want to. Just take in some of the stuff that they're doing and some of the things that they're saying to make sure. And one more thing, I know you talked about the student loans with FHA. Even if you do have 0.00, they're going to still take 1% of all of your student loans and use it as income when you're trying to buy a house. Believe me, I just went through so much stuff. I understand it. But understanding it and knowing how to get better is why we're here today. I think I had the live plan just to make sure it can hear us correctly. And so, Rich, any ending words you want us to know? Anything you need people to understand? You know, because you talked about credit, real estate, and a couple other things as well.
Yeah, definitely. Purchasing a property is one of the biggest ways to gain wealth. If you starting from nothing, purchase you a property, see where you stand, find out if you qualify for FHA or a conventional loan. Even if you know your plane gonna get shot out the sky, go see where you stand. They might say, hey, your credit score needs 10 more points or it needs 50 points, but we'll do a rapid rescore and get you there. Because you were at Walmart making $9 or $11 an hour for the past 2 to 3 years, guess what? You have a track record of check stubs and taxes. We can put this together and find you a house. You might not get that $150,000 house, but you might get that $100,000 house. And of course, you're going to want a duplex, but don't worry about that. If you can't get that duplex, get that single family and get on board, because you will not, that's not your dream home. You are not just qualified for your dream loan, but you are qualified to get out of somebody's rental property into your own property. And I'm pretty sure I have never came across anybody that can refinance rent. You know, nobody has ever refinanced rent, but they can refinance their home, pay down that mortgage, put 20, 50, 60,000 to the side, or take that 20, 40, 60,000 out of town with you when you move, because that's what they all say.
Do you have another cell phone by you too, or no?
Another phone?
I can hear you a little bit, but it might be quick mail somebody in. Yeah, like, do you have another opening or?
No.
Okay.
Do it sound better now?
Better now?
Okay.
Yep.
He had muted it, so. Yeah, but take that 20, 40, 60,000 and move out of town, because that's what the people always say. I don't know if I'm gonna buy a house because I don't know if I'm gonna be here in the next 2 years. But you know, find out where you stand. If your credit is 100% shot, this how I had to do it without no mentors, nobody to tell me nothing. I YouTube some videos. I went to Milwaukee Library. I got credit repair books. I looked at the letters. I first figured out how credit worked, and then I got me a secure credit card because I didn't have anybody to put me on their credit card as a writer. I didn't know anything about trade lines. I didn't know anybody that had trade line. I didn't know none of that. So I pulled myself up with getting a secure card from US Bank because US Bank had to deal with MATC at the time. And then after that, I got a Credit One, Capital One card, and then a Credit One card or something like that. But I know my credit score went from being 485 to 550 to 640 to 720. And I want to say when I realized, when I finally looked back at my credit and seen it was 720, I want to tell you the next month that thing was probably about 680 because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and I think I got like 5 credit cards in 1 year. Who does that? If you know about credit.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't know. So that's some of the stuff I did. I own a couple properties and I do not have a mortgage. So it is possible for you to pull your crumbs and tidbits together and just have a bit of hope that opportunity is going to meet you and you'll get that property that you're looking for. And that's kind of like hinders me a little bit when I try to apply for a mortgage and stuff like that. The first thing they say is we don't see your property, your home loan on your credit. We're not going to see that. And I didn't refinance anything. Everything I got, God gave it to me. And if he didn't, I wouldn't have it. So hey, it is hope out there. You can do it, man. If you live in paycheck to paycheck, get the best $3 you can possibly spend is $1 for a pen and $2 for a notebook to write your dreams and affirmations down and be precise in what you want. And then go out there and do it.
Yeah, and thank you all for your wealth of knowledge and information. And the Building Economical Wealth Group is something that we're virtual now. We have did a couple of things that are in person, but we have to adhere by COVID. And my vision for this is all of the people that come on the show and those other people that are looking to do something, not just within Milwaukee, because we got people in some other states as well, too, like Jersey and New York and things of that nature, in Illinois, is that we come together and we are building a foundation that we take the city and our community that we're in to the next level together. And so there will be no big I's and little U's, and that we making sure wealth and your success, it is going to look different from all type of people that you're able to garner and gain that. And so it is about, some of it is money. Let's just be honest. You need money to be able to live a life, to pay your bills, to have a roof over your head. But a lot of it comes with the knowledge and then having that strong foundation of people with you. Somebody said, if you're the brightest person in your circle or you're the top person in your circle, then you need a new circle, because I want to be forever learning and I want to equip myself with people around me who can help me go where I'm going. There was something that I think Barack said. He was like, there's a lot of things that I don't know how to do. Ask my wife. And so she came on the talk show, and guess the first question that they said is, your husband said there's tons of things he don't know how to do or he don't know. Please tell us what it is. And she said, well, what my husband don't know or cannot do, he equipped himself with people within his circle that can get it done. And so Building Economical Wealth Group, that's what it is. Whatever we don't know, we're going to equip each other and equip other people within our circle so that we can get it done for our community. And I say there's no wealth if you can't give back. So there's no way I want to move up, but I'm not able to give back to somebody else who want to go. Now, if a person want to stay where they're at, that's absolutely fine. This is no judge and jury. But it's time for us to step up and do what we were meant to do. No longer no excuses. And like they said, it ran in my family until it ran into me. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you reach out to these gentlemen. If I ever say something about somebody or I give a reference, I mean it. Because if I don't, I say, yeah, I don't know what, check them out for yourself. But I'll put my word and my name behind these two gentlemen here tonight, saying if you want assistance in any of their areas of expertise, these are good people that's not going to try to get over and going to make sure you succeed. And if they can't help you, or if you need more help to get their assistance, they're going to lead you in that direction. A lot of times people say they can help you and then they really can't and they leave you hanging. I've never known that about either one of these guys on the line here tonight. I've utilized their services for different things. So if I'm saying they're good, they're good. But once again, don't just take my word. Research them, research their work, have a conversation, get your questions answered, you guys, and let's move up. And let's do what we are known to do, and let's make it. If we can make a meal out of nothing, I know we can bring and break down generational curses that have hunted us for years. So be safe, love on somebody, have love for yourself, first of all. And because we're in COVID, I got to say it every time I talk to somebody, call somebody, especially those that we say that are elderly or seasoned. They are our most vulnerable population, and they are alone during this time. And so just let's make sure, whether it's your neighbor, your auntie, your uncle, your grandmother, give them a call or leave a card at their door and just let them know you're thinking about them. So we're out. Have a great night and be safe.